Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kristina Lynn Show. The talk show with heart, where Kristina brings you up close and personal with the most fascinating guests from all walks of life.
Last week, Brandon met a girl on a dating app. One day after work, he finally found the courage to ask her out. No answer. He started to panic. Was he being too pushy? Maybe it was too...
Hey, sorry I didn't respond. I was driving. I would love to go on a date. How does tonight sound?
Brandon tried to play it cool, but inside he knew. A girl so smart, so responsible. She must be a keeper.
And now your host, Kristina Lynn.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Kristina Lynn Show. I'm your host, Kristina Lynn, and we have another fascinating guest today. So happy to have a dear friend of mine, and you're so popular with our audience, Henry Baker. So welcome back to Henry Baker.
Thank you, Christine. It's always a pleasure to be here with you and your audience.
Well, it's great to have you here. Henry is the president of High Value Financial, and he is also the president and founder of the We Care Forever Foundation. So we've talked about that on the show before, but we'll go into that a little bit today as well, again, because it's just such an amazing, amazing foundation. Now, you graduated from Emory University, from my hometown, Atlanta, Georgia.
That's right.
Wonderful. And you got a BBA in marketing and entrepreneurship.
Correct.
That's wonderful. We'll talk about that as well. Now, let me ask you, today we're going to talk about your experience and know-how in the world of finance.
Mm-hmm.
People are very nervous right now. There's a climate of a lot of fear around money, and with all this inflation going on, people are nervous. People are nervous about the stock market. It's been very volatile. Things have been very up and down. So I think more than ever, this is a time when people want to hear from financial experts like yourself on what can be safe to do. Now, with you, I know that you're very open about talking about some of the tricks that wealthy people have, and also what they don't want us to know, that 1% on Wall Street. So let's talk first about some of the tricks of the wealthy. What do they do that's different than us that helps them maintain their health, their wealth, and make more wealth?
Thank you for asking that, Christina. This is something I'm very passionate about, that everybody is able to participate and should be playing on an even playing field. And part of these tricks is what makes the playing field so complicated. So one of the tricks is buying life insurance on babies, on very young children, which is not what people think about. When we turn life insurance generational, instead of thinking about myself, or I'm starting to get older, maybe I get life insurance, we're paying a very high premium because our cost of life insurance is very high.
Now, you did say babies and young children.
Babies.
Why is that? Why is it that I would wanted to have that done for maybe a child or a grandchild that's a baby?
Well, we have to look at what makes life insurance expensive. And we want to take advantage of when it is very affordable, very cheap, and use it as a multifunctional tool, not just for paying for expenses when someone dies to their beneficiaries. That's not life insurance anymore at all. That's a very small piece of life insurance. Life insurance chassis, as we call it, are used for many, many different purposes. They can be part of your retirement plans. This is tax deferment. For me, Christina, I like things the government doesn't like. I like Roth IRAs, the way the tax structure works.
About those. Tell us about Roth IRAs. I'm going to feel, and I do feel that there's some people in the audience that may not know about those.
Yeah. So people look into IRAs, 401k plans. They don't look at the Roth, which is a big mistake because they see the tax deferment in the regular IRA or the regular 401k, where they're putting in pre-tax money into their investment, and that gives them more money because they're not paying taxes on it. Now, the problem is that they're going to pay taxes at a certain point, and instead of not paying taxes now, they're going to pay taxes later after many years, especially for young people who are getting into their first job, and they have many years where there's a lot of interest that's going to grow. Hopefully, if they have good investments and the markets perform. And would you rather, pay on a small amount of money taxes, or would you rather pay on a very large amount of money your taxes? So the Roth, you're paying using after-tax money, but when you take it out, there's no taxation. So that's a huge, huge benefit. And if you ever run the models, it's absolutely frightening how much money is being left on the table. But it's kind of a long-term versus short-term thinking. And I think as our society becomes more short-term, because we're moving so quickly, there's so much information coming at us, the long-term is being lost. The years of accruing interest is lost. And for me, when I'm working, especially with young people, it's very important to have faceted strategies.
And when you say young people, is that right out of college, or what would be the age range that it's good to really start thinking about Roth IRAs and other things like that?
I think it's amazing when you talk to parents and they realize, so we're talking to parents in their 40s and they see the expense of life insurance and, how much money they have to put in at that point if they don't have a retirement plan. Versus how much their child, who maybe could be 14, 15 years old, and you can get a custodial Roth IRA for your child at 14, 15. So there's, I think it's a very exciting way to get your kid to work because, talking about a life insurance policy, a permanent policy, which could be a, universal policy, universal life, or a whole life policy, where it's not limited like a term policy. A lot of people don't know the differences of that either, which we can get into. But a permanent policy, never ends. It's with you your entire life, and you can borrow from it. You can generate cash from it, tax-free growth from it. You can have living benefits for like chronic illness and different things that might happen. It can become almost like a health policy as well. So there's many different elements.
What are some examples of that? How would that work?
So, it depends on what you're really looking for, what your focus is. I mean, there's plans that are looking that are more heavily focused on the life insurance element to grow cash.
Yeah.
Other ones are meant more for long-term care, and long-term care is a very scary subject because it's growing at such a high rate of cost. I mean, it's going up, I think, 5-6% a year in cost. So
why is that's going up? Is there a reason for that, or is it just like inflation?
I think we're dealing with that now because of the baby boomer population. I mean, that's one of our struggles in our society is that the baby boomers are retiring over the next 10 or so years,
right?
And that was a huge bubble after World War II of babies that were born, and the way our system works, there's a lot of uncertainty because there is no Social Security trust fund. That's ridiculous. It's been spent many years ago, and the government, bless their soul, pays themselves interest on borrowing it from themselves. So I think we could actually save Social Security just by increasing the rate of interest that the government is charging itself. But that's really, I don't know, pretending that we're not dealing with the same entity, which is pretty underhanded. But that's how politicians talk. So there are a lot of things that are
Do you think we could ever see a change in that?
I don't know. The government is a daunting subject. I do believe that bringing government more local back to the states for a lot of issues. I think Washington, D.C. being surrounded by these lobbyists that are, some of the most expensive counties in the country are surrounding Washington, D.C. I think going back to the states, it would break up that kind of domination the federal government has. And I think that the majority of the taxes should go to the states, with a small amount going to the federal government for, say, military, State Department. There are certain departments, but 2 million federal workers is a huge number. And I don't think the government should be an employment agency. So we can get into politics at another time. But
right, we'll have to. That's a whole nother show, isn't it?
Yeah, but actually, but the government not being able to pass a budget, I think, is a terrible message for us and the children. I think if these leaders can't even operate under any kind of controls, what's the message that the kids are hearing? And I think that kind of drives me, and everything I want to do politically and in my life is, what do the kids hear? What are the kids hear with the discussion around this Roe versus Wade? What are the kids hearing us discussing? At what time can we abort? I mean, it's just I'm wondering what their experience is having this come back on this discussion. I mean, just many, many different subjects, but we're trying to go
that's
back
true.
to our
Parents.
financial world.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Uh,
parents have a lot to deal with now in talking to their children about what's going on in our world,
Yeah,
because there is so much going on. And of course, then, as we know, parents also have to be looking at these ways that they can
yeah.
put money back for college, and no telling what college will cost when
Mhm.
some of the young
Mhm.
children now are grown up. Now, is there another way with back to the
Yeah.
insurance
Yeah.
aspect, which is so fascinating to me?
Yeah.
Is there another way to set up college funds? And of course,
Sure.
if you start young, I guess that could work.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it starts even before college, because so many
Mhm.
kids and young people, a lot of people don't know how to keep their checkbooks. They don't know how to keep budgets. I think by having this discussion around life insurance at an early age, I've seen amazing conversations come from it. I've heard young people asking their parents to help them find a job, or to start making money, after school. I think internships at all stages in life is a fantastic thing. So you can
Yeah.
actually test it out beforehand, and you actually might just have a springboard right into careers.
Yes.
So I think having the discussion, and for parents to be like, hey, I'm doing this for you, or I started this when you were 3 years old or 2 years old, this policy, and now there's $80,000, $100,000 sitting in here for an emergency rainy day fund, because you're supposed to have 6 months of your expenses available. Now, where are you going to put it? In a savings account? Well, interest rates are going up, but they're not very exciting still. We're going to make 0.6%, something very low. But if you have something you can borrow, $100,000, how could that change your life if you had that as a rainy day fund, that God forbid you lost your job or you want to move to another city for a better opportunity?
Oh, that could help
Because
so much.
I mean, today we're dealing with a huge number of Americans that can't go from paycheck to paycheck. They need to be paid every single day to eat. It's very, very frightening, and I think
is.
it's almost an economic captivity, let's say, because I don't like to use the other word.
Right. Well, hold that thought. We're going to have to break for a message from our sponsor, but I want to continue this amazing and super important conversation right when we get back. So stay tuned for the Kristina Lynn Show. We'll be right back.
One day, I'll teach chemistry to kids.
I'm going to be an architect.
My dream is to be a chef.
At the U.S. Department of Education's Office of Federal Student Aid, we provide more than $150 billion each year in grants, loans, and work-study funds, making higher education possible for anyone at any stage of life.
I can go back to college.
I can change careers.
I can make a difference.
Federal Student Aid, proud sponsor of the American Mind. Learn more about money for college at studentaid.gov.
So, what is love? Love is being independent.
Love is dancing.
At Shriners Hospital for Children, love is a new smile.
At Shriners Hospitals for Children, love is caring for a child regardless of the family's ability to pay. Learn how you can send your love to the rescue at lovetotherescue.org.
Welcome back. I'm Kristina Lynn, and we're here on the Kristina Lynn Show with my wonderful guest, Henry Baker. Henry is a financial expert, and he has got a lot of important information he's sharing today. I'm learning so much, and this is so important at this time right now. People are really wondering what they can do to take care of their families and handle this inflation that's going on, which I'm sure we've all got to just think positive that hopefully it will be soon that it will all be over. But in the meantime, it's so important, even more important than ever, to be smart with your finances. Now, Henry, you are well known for being very outspoken about what the Wall Street 1% know that they don't want us to know. That's what I love about your work and how you do things. You really help to educate your clients. So what is it they don't want us to know that we should know?
So another element that's very important is knowing who you're speaking to help you, and how are they compensated? Who do they represent? It's very important to identify, who they are. Are they locked in with one specific company? If you speak to an agent and every time they're advising from the same company, that's a big red flag. Agents that are captive, as they call them, who can only work with one company, aren't going to advertise that because that's a big limitation. It's like going into a TV store, like you're going to the Sony store. You go to Best Buy, you want to see the Sonys, the LGs, you want to see all the brands because, that size might be better Sony, the other one might be better LG. So, you want to be able to shop the whole market. So when you're dealing with that agent, you're limiting yourself tremendously, except for you're not going to really know it. So you want to ask that. Are you going to be shopping for me? Are you working for me? Or are you working for one company? It's very important to identify, who people are. I
Does
think
that start happening more and more now? Is it more prevalent to find people doing that in the business?
I think there's people all across the board. I think it's important for you to try to be referred to somebody who is going to listen to you and understand your needs. Take the time. You might not be the biggest account. For me, it's important everyone to be treated in the same way so that everyone can take advantage of these systems. Maybe not to the same extent. We have different amounts of capital that we have, but we should still be able to take advantage. And I think by starting early, like again, with the children, we can create very large nest eggs of generational wealth. And I think it's very important to think that way because unfortunately, we're thinking day to day, and we have to get out of that mindset as soon as possible.
Yes.
That's not a good way to live my life. If I can't quit my job because I won't eat that night or I'll be evicted, that's very problematic. And it's very jarring and scary for me to see that there are employers that are paying daily and people need that. Yeah, you'll pay every day. You'll get a cash app every single day, how much money you made. Working for some restaurants, some fast food places, that is what people want, and it might be important at the moment to live that way, but it's very important to get out of that because that is really a captivity, which is unacceptable. It's a you're a captive. You are basically indentured into the situation. You can't afford to make a decision to change, to redirect, to find a way that's more exciting way to live in your life, to go up the ladder, to maybe get an education,
Right.
to train for another occupation that might interest you. I mean, people change, and if you can't move because if you financially can't do it, it's impossible. That's very, very sad for
That's
me.
difficult. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've heard a really sad statistic that there are so many millions of Americans that even if they had a $400 or $500 emergency,
Can't pay for it.
that they can't afford to pay for it. So if they have a car problem or anything like that. And how has that happened in America that we've come to that place? And how can we help people? How do you help people get on better standing, better footing,
Yeah.
and change that?
I'm investigating how to provide financial services for people who are even in poverty. There's free life insurance out there, believe it or not.
There is?
Yes, there is.
How do you get that?
You could be in touch with me, highvaluefinancial.com, and reach out to me, and I can help you with that. But I'm looking at an organization that can actually make sense financially for people, stay-at-home moms who can help others get that free insurance and explain to them a basic plan that can be very, very affordable, especially if you're living in a very dangerous area. That's actually where term insurance is very important because for young people that could, especially with families, very small amount of money, even $10 a month, they could have a few $100,000 coming in. God forbid they're killed. I have this conversation with a few people in my We Care Forever work.
$10 a month. That's right. Yeah. So you do a lot of that work with underprivileged people, correct?
I haven't done too much, but that's something that I really like to do. We've been very busy at We Care and such, but that's something that's very important. And
tell us a minute now. We've had you on before about We Care, but if you will, just for those that weren't listening to that show, tell us again exactly what We Care Forever is and what are your goals that you plan to accomplish?
We Care Forever is I call it social venture capital foundation, which is really applying the operational know-how and the drive for results, because that's how corporations work. Their investors want to see results. They want to see the stocks appreciate, and they want to see the effectiveness grow. They want to see the management really operate at a very high level. And that's something that is not so evident in the nonprofit world. So what We Care Forever is doing is taking a critical look at the nonprofit world, looking for those gems of corporate community heroes who have such amazing results from what they've been able to do with very limited resources, and then to partner them up with corporations by presenting a business plan, a growth plan, a return on social investment, which is very impressive that the corporation needs. There's more and more pressure on corporations from millennials and from minorities that they don't want to see these heartless. It's all about ROI. It's all about return on investment. These corporations need to be social partners. They need to be part of the community. And I think what we're proposing at We Care Forever is very exciting for the corporations. This is a outsourcing of corporate responsibility and running nonprofits, audited, transparent, understanding overhead expenses. I mean, the average overhead expense in a nonprofit is 34%. That means 34 cents on the dollar is not going to the actual need, but going to managing. So that's a pretty high rate. I mean, it's not as bad as the federal government, which I think is like 98% overhead or something like that.
Gosh,
but
even more.
It's I made that number up, but not with the average nonprofit. But to really take a critical look and to apply the brilliance of capitalism, the drive for results in the nonprofits, that the people in poverty, underserved communities, children, really need us to step up. And why not use the point that makes us great? We're talking about being great. America is a capitalist country. It's one of the most capitalist countries, and our system should be deployed to I'm not going to eradicate poverty, but to massively reduce. I mean, I don't see why that can't happen and why it's not happening. I don't really quite understand that. I think these communities deserve it, and that's something that we can provide for them.
Fantastic. That is so important. And now that ties in. I think it's beautiful that you've been able to take your financial expertise and put a lot of that into the foundation as well. So that, because there are so many people that are reaching out now and needing help. And let's look at college. Now, what about parents that are doing college funds? Mm-hmm. Do you think, I've seen that there may be more and more of a trend of people having their children maybe go to a 2-year college or just get training and train in some area that they love. What do you feel about that? And how, if they do want to do college, what's the best way to help them make that reality?
Well, every different type of savings system for college has different limitations. So you might be limited to staying in your state. And the complexity with finance, with any planning, is we don't know the future. So we don't know if our kids want to go to college, if they want to stay in this state, what they want to study. I mean, there are a lot of occupations. Look, airplane pilots, I mean, we have a serious shortage. Truck drivers, serious shortage. Truck mechanics, serious shortage. Honestly, if you want to be a millionaire and make a lot of money, going to college is probably your worst idea.
I've heard that. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think if you're entrepreneurial, opening up a truck,
trucking business?
I'd say becoming a truck mechanic and opening up multiple offices because you're entrepreneurial. I think by the time you're 24, 25, you could probably be a millionaire. I mean, honestly, it's a huge shortage. The demand is massive. And I think it's to think that college is going to make you a lot of money. That's a ridiculous perception. There's many, many occupations that are not college, and some people aren't cut out for college. And some people just want to, I mean, that's a lot of investment. 4 years in a 4-year college, or even, higher degree. You can be in college for 12 years, 14 years. Maybe you don't even want to be that profession at the end of that point. You want to change something else. And how do you do that? So being able to move and live your life is very, limited.
Yeah. And training is so important. So we'll talk more about that. But right now, here's another word from one of our wonderful sponsors. Stay with us. We're going to finish up with Henry Baker right when we come back.
Travel is part of the American way of life.
When we're on vacation, we keep an eye out for anything that looks out of place.
Miss your bag.
When we travel from city to city, we pay attention to our surroundings.
Everyone plays a role in keeping our communities safe. Whether you're traveling for business or pleasure, be aware of your surroundings. If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Hey world, I have a quick message. It's about safe driving. All right, let's go. Anytime you're driving, have the seatbelt buckled tight, both hands on the wheel and your phone out of sight. When not in your hand trying to text somebody back, because if you do, your car might get smacked. The moral of the story, just put your phone down. The people on the road will stay safe and sound. Put your phone down, put your phone down. People on the road will stay safe and sound. Yeah.
Okay, and now we're back to the Kristina Lynn Show. And I am talking to Henry Baker, and we're talking about financial security and learning all the secrets that Henry has to share with us today about how we can improve our finances and our financial security. So, Henry, let's look now at annuities. Now, I've heard that annuities can be very important and can be very good for you if they're done correctly, that they can really work well for you.
Right.
Tell us about annuities. I think some people may not even know about them and how they can be good for you.
We start off with the risk tolerance. It's very important to understand how you function in a risk situation. And I think, unfortunately, we're more and more disconnected from risk, at least in America.
Tolerance? Let's tell everyone exactly what that is.
In
a nutshell.
Risk tolerance is, when the market is off, how are you going to react? We live in an age where the market was just growing at a ridiculous rate, and to assume that's going to continue forever is absolutely impossible. You can see it's massively inflated right now, and there's been quite a big drop. And how do we react when your Bitcoin drops 20% or 80%? Are you going to sell off because you don't want to lose the last 20%? Or are you going to stay pat and say, well, I believe in it? Or are you going to buy more because you think it's so cheap? How does your mind work? Because if all you do is panic when it drops, then you shouldn't be in any risk situation. So,
and that goes for the stock market too, doesn't it?
Stock market too. So annuities are insurance products which protect against downside and limits the upside. So you're not going to have 14, 15, 20% returns. You're not going to have Bitcoin returns about 80% or 200% or some crazy numbers like that. And there's nothing wrong with being in Bitcoin in those high risk strategies, but it should be part of your strategies, not all of it. Because you speak to business owners, they put all of their money back into their business. I have a friend, very, very wealthy man, is now broke. He lost everything from his business. He didn't think about, taking out a life insurance policy, putting $1,000 a month would have been nothing for him, and he'd be worth millions today in his retirement. Now he lives on Social Security. They don't think about it. So having something like an annuity or a portfolio and letting things ride and having different funds in different baskets, is a very, very good idea. So an annuity has, if you have a growth annuity, you can have a zero downside. So if the market's off 30%, you lost nothing. When the market's up, say 20, 30%, maybe you're up 10% or 11%. So, you can see an average of 6, 7, 8%. A 6% return is very good compared to savings rates. So these are things that you have to be careful, because there are fees if you want to take out your money early. So you have to decide what's the time frame you want to put the money in there, and you have to let it ride. So it's not really available, or you're going to be penalized, and we don't want to see that happen.
Now, let me ask you about the fees. I think some people get nervous when they talk about annuities. Mm-hmm. And because of the fees. Is that real fee heavy, or how does that work?
So, fees are how much things are managed. You want to have high fees. I mean, the Vanguard and mutual funds had very low fees because it was just, mirroring the S&P 500. There were no portfolio managers. It's just basically automated and very, very low fee structure, but there's nobody who's managing.
All right. Well, thank you. I wish we could go on, but again, that's Henry Baker. And Henry, you're at highvaluefinancial.com.
Correct.
Great. So reach out to him there. Your email again is
hbaker@highvaluefinancial.com.
Thank you, Henry. And I am your host, Kristina Lynn. Thank you, our wonderful audience. We just love you and we wish you the best. And we ask you be sure and tune in next week when we have another wonderful guest that's amazing. And in the meantime, have a wonderful week.
The Kristina Lynn Show, the show with heart. We'll be looking forward to seeing you again. And don't forget just how important you really are to us. We love and respect each and every one of you.